you very much.
Thank you. Do you have a list of people from last...
Do you want me to announce this first?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? Allow us to begin this interaction this evening of your time with a discussion, and if you wish, the labeling of this discussion, consensus reality. The idea that you, each and every one of you, have recognized for many thousands of years to be the quote-unquote world, the reality, the universe you have assumed you live in, you have created yourselves to live in, that which you recognize to be the commonality for everyone is what we are referring to as the consensus reality. The reality you all agree to have common ideas about. The commonality you all agree to have. In other words, to put it very simply, the idea that the majority of you, the consensus of you, have agreed at this time, as we perceive it, that you are, quote-unquote, sitting on chairs in a room, somewhere in a particular locale upon your planet. That is representative of one of the ideas of a consensus reality. It doesn't have to be perceived that way by any of you. You can perceive yourself in any way, shape, or form you wish, because what you call physical reality, as we have discussed many times, literally has no empirical existence aside from the definitions you have been taught to give it. In fact, there is no it to give definitions to. Your definitions in and of themselves are the physical reality you experience seemingly externally from you. That is your definition, one of your definitions of physical reality, that you can experience it seemingly separate from you. That's one of the definitions that creates the notion you call physical reality. And so, each and every one of you creates that reality in a similar fashion, using similar mechanisms of belief and emotion and thought and consciousness in terms of how you apply it. Your definitions will vary to some degree because each and every one of you is a unique individual. But nonetheless, you also, in order to, let us say, play the game of the particular physical reality that you are playing, you must all generally agree on some similarity in order to have any similarity of experience or commonality of experience at all. This consensus reality forms, at least to some degree, an automatic background that allows you to not have to think about it all the time. You simply have put it on automatic in general. However, now in your transformational age, now that you are, as a society, delving into the very notions of consciousness itself, you are now finding, I shall say, loopholes in that consensus reality. Now that you are becoming aware of the fact that you actually create your own reality, now you have given yourself the tools to find those so-called loopholes or soft spots in your collective definition that are somewhat alterable. And finding one means you can find more, means you can create more. Not that it necessarily, in and of itself, is an absolute goal that you must absolutely unbalance and eradicate the idea of the general consensus reality that you have as physical beings, but that you can now find that your individual expression of the consensus reality, your individual expression of physical reality has a lot more, as you say, leeway than you used to think. You are now capable of bridging space and time, of manipulating space and time and physical objects in a far freer way than you used to think was possible. Because you are now recognizing that they are extensions of you. Physical things are simply your perceptive definitions of the idea of yourself as a physical being. And so you now find you can play around with the idea a little bit more than you used to be able to, or used to think you were able to. Consensus reality will remain somewhat similar for all of you, even though it will change in its own way, as you each, in your own unique way as individuals, add your new perspectives, add your new points of view to the overall consensus reality. You allow the entire idea to shift in ways that then change the ability of every individual within that reality to make even broader, more sweeping changes individually. You all follow along so far? Each and every one of you has impact. Each and every one of you makes a difference to the consensus reality. Whatever perspective you choose to prefer is the perspective more representative of who you now know yourself to be. That adds a vibration. It adds a frequency. It has impact on the capability of the total whole to know there are that more opportunities in reality, that many more ways you could experience the idea of the physical reality that you have chosen to exist as. You are all experimenters. You are all inventors. Each and every unique point of view that you believe to be truly you, that you have the conviction to put out there in your physical life, acts as an example, a reflective mirror for everyone else, so that they can see, oh, look, one more opportunity, one more new way to express the idea of creation through ourselves. One more perspective that is added to the overall amount of perspectives that form the consensus reality that we could use, we can adapt, we can employ within our reality and add to the overall whole. A new way, a broader way, an expansive way to see ourselves. Each and every one of you plays your part. You all fit. You all belong. You cannot be, you cannot exist where you do not fit, where you do not belong. So remember, in the overall sense, no matter what your perspective is, no one can really be, quote unquote, ahead of or behind their time. If you exist now in the way you exist now, it is an absolute reflection of what the overall consensus reality needs to express the totality of itself at any given moment. It is, in that sense, always a balance sheet. And no matter what any individual is doing, you are a part of that whole balance sheet. You are a part of the now. You are a part of the vitality of the life that is expressed as your collective civilization at this time. Even though many of you may in the past have had visions of things that did not manifest themselves, doesn't mean it wasn't appropriate to begin to introduce those ideas in your society, to lay the foundations for other individuals that would, in your terms, come later, or maybe even yourselves reincarnating and taking up where you left off in another life, laying a foundation for yourself in the future, which many of you have done. The idea also is to begin to realize that since you are a collective consciousness, and because as individuals you have created the idea that you have an outer aware consciousness, a subconsciousness, and an unconsciousness, you have created those notions in your collective consciousness as well. There is a collective outer consciousness, a collective subconsciousness, a collective unconsciousness as well. And many of you have had the experience of dealing with many of these levels. They are called your archetypal substreams in that sense. You have found many gates and doorways, many visions, many experiences that are not usually explained by your outer aware conscious state, but can be explained as interactions you are having, intersections you are having with the collective mass unconsciousness. For if you have created within your individuality an unconsciousness that can hide things from yourself, then in the collective unconsciousness there can be realms and projections and faces and facets of consciousness that you can run into that many of you have called mythological in nature that are no less real. It is simply that you have not allowed them to blend in the consensus outer conscious reality, but they do belong and do fit in the consensus unconscious and subconscious reality. Now that you are exploring the idea that the notion of subconscious and unconscious are really only your definitions, and there really doesn't empirically exist a barrier in your consciousness, that you are one homogeneous consciousness, many of the things you have ascribed in the past to mythology, and in that sense, what you call imagination, are now beginning to bleed through, to blend into your outer physical awareness. So many of you are having conscious visions, conscious daydreams, seeing time and space become very malleable, seeing visions of different kinds of beings and levels of consciousness that can project themselves to you, even as you did in times past. The idea of many of the encounters that beings say they had with different levels of consciousness that you would call some of your mythologies, what you call your goblins and your fairies, and all these ideas are simply interactions with different levels of the mass consciousness expressing itself in whatever way represents symbolically the best way that any particular individual can relate to the idea of that portion of the collective whole. Are you all following along? You don't have to retain all of this analytically. We are progressing at a certain pace in transferring this information to you because the pace we are progressing at in delivering this information is also reaching you on many different levels that you have created yourself to exist as. One other idea that we would enjoy sharing with you is to allow yourselves, because of what we have talked about, what we have now mentioned about all the different levels that your reality exists within, is to learn to really appreciate the fullness of the consciousness that your reality is. And not necessarily ascribe or assign interactions with many different types of consciousness to something that really must come from beyond your reality. Even though there are, as we are, the idea of extraterrestrial consciousnesses, we are still to some degree represented by the energy you have to work with on your planet. We can only use the energy you are made out of to represent ourselves. You can only see your versions of us made out of your energy to be able to perceive us anyway. So we simply remind you that no matter what you perceive, you are always perceiving it out of, modeled out of your energy, the energy that is represented by the earth that you are. There are vast richnesses of experience, gateways and doorways into different dimensions of yourself, of your collective consciousness, right on your own planet. You do not have to go seeking out in the stars to encounter other levels of consciousness in that way. You can always go within. You have many different realms of experiences going on all within your own reality. Your own earth is a very rich and multi-layered experience. You have in the dolphins and the whales aliens on your very own planet. You do not have to find them out among the stars. The idea is that you have many gates, many doorways to go through. Many different types of levels of interaction can be had on your very own planet. You are a rich and exciting world. Learn to appreciate in that way all the variety, all the diversity, all the different ways you have chosen to experience yourself. And remember, even many of the things you think are encounters from other civilizations are actually encounters with different aspects of your own civilization you are not allowing yourselves to be consciously aware of yet. You have many different interdimensional gates between which what you call the past of your society and the future of your society can interact with your present. Many of what you call the UFOs that you see in your skies do not come from other planets. They come from your planet. Different dimensions of experience in your past, in your future. Different alternate realities in your present that are absolutely attached to the world you are. You are a very rich and multi-layered experience in and of yourselves. So first, be aware of the richness of all the layers you have created. Feel free to interact, to blend together, to integrate all the different doorways, all the different levels and aspects of information your consciousness is. That's what will put you squarely in touch with all the consciousness that we are. When you are functioning more as truly one world, as a consensus reality, that while proceeding in one particular momentum direction, still appreciates and values and validates and strengthens all the individual expressions within itself. For that is a complete being. If a being recognizes itself to be, or has created itself to be, made of many parts, then the equalization and the validation and the strengthening of all of the individual parts is what makes you a unified whole. To unite and unify does not mean you lose your individuality. It means you strengthen it. Because only as equally strong components do you have a completely strong, unified whole. You all follow along? we express at this timing to each and every one of you our absolute delight at your willingness to function as unique and individual ambassadors of your society. And we express absolute delight in allowing us and me to function as ambassadors of our respective societies within the association of worlds. In return for the gift of your willingness to share at this time, and in accepting your invitation to share, I ask you now, how may I serve you?
Good day, Bashar.
Good day to you.
First, I want to say thank you last week for your opening talk. It connected me very directly with the piece that I was going to be performing the following Saturday. It was like as if it described it to a T, so that just made me feel like...
Thank you for allowing us to reflect your ability to connect into other aspects of yourself. Proceed.
Okay. My question has to do with two aspects of two dreams. The first dream had to do with... I was feeling myself like pulling out of my body in a dream state, and it felt the same as when I leave my body when I'm in a non-dream state.
Yes.
And as I was leaving, I felt my 1-year-old baby that sleeps in the bed with us consciously choose to come with me. So it wasn't as if I was dreaming about her, as it really felt she was coming with. So she came with me, and we came to a place where like right before you choose what images you're going to make in a dream. And so
very good.
Yeah,
very exciting.
Okay, so it progressed, and we appeared at this place, and I saw the channel Daryl and his fiancée, and I wasn't clear why they were there, and we just like acknowledged each other in the same dream space and went on. And now the part I want to ask about was when I came back into my body, I felt like a condensing back into it. So I really got that it was about expanding, not leaving.
Very good.
And then when I was in my body, I felt like the warm body of my husband, and I was like laying next to him, and then I like felt something going in between us and jumping over us. And when I looked up, I'm not sure if I was awake or not, but it was like this dolphin going back and forth in between us, and then I like kind of just stayed there watching, and then it was like my baby. Then it was my baby's shape, and she just looked straight at my face and gave me this big grin, and then just started laughing and stayed up the rest of the night. And this happened to be about 2:30 or 3:30. Stayed up until about like 4:30 or so, and kept laughing and jumping all around and like just real excited.
What is unclear about all this?
Well, I knew you talked about the dolphin's youth changing places with the human youth, and so I guess I was wondering if that was going on.
In a sense, but also dolphin consciousness interacts with all of you on your dream realities, where you are generally, at least for now, more willing to allow interaction between different consciousnesses to take place. So you were simply being assisted in many different ways, as a guide would assist you, being shown the idea on many different levels of the fact that you are now really learning what it really means to play, what it really means to be the creator of your reality, and how ecstatic that is. Now the idea, not as a goal in itself, not as something you have to try to do. We are not attempting to focus you in an idea of limitation. But now the idea is to arrive at the same perspective in your physical reality that you know you now have arrived at in your dream reality. That place just before you choose the images that represent your physical life. So you can see yourself in action as you choose and create the symbols you attract in your physical life. Understand?
Yes.
That is the idea, the perspective of play that you were being shown in that sense. And you were also being shown that on that level, your child is not a child. And in a sense, you, even though you may be an adult, can still act in a childlike manner. Understand? You are blending your energy with all, recognizing the agreements and the reflections of all that you have created a family with. It is simply that your family contains a few more members than you may physically think it does. And many of you have, as family members, dolphins as well.
Yeah.
Because many of you have shared the idea in different incarnations of dolphin body, human body. Remember, you are the same type of soul. The outer appearance doesn't determine, in that sense, what you are. You are two alien species on your planet. You are interchangeable, and many times in what you call your past have been incarnationally interchangeable and are becoming so again, whether it has to be in an incarnation of one life to another, or whether you can allow yourselves to be interchangeable as energy, as consciousness within any particular life. Doesn't matter. But you are now blending into the families that you are, that in a sense you once were. It is simply that some of the members of your family swim in the sea.
Well,
Understand?
Yeah. So that brings me to the second aspect of this other dream where okay, all this other stuff happened, but suddenly like everything else stopped in the dream, and I was laying on this operating table, and there was like 5 surgeons, men and women around me, and they made a hole in the bottom of my spine and at the base there, about the size of between $0.25 and $0.50, and there was, and it kind of hurt, and I was going, ow, and then they were sticking tuna fish in the hole and squeezing out the water and the oil and kept sticking tuna in, and I thought, I wonder why they're doing that. And then when I turned around to look, at one time I looked, I saw the size of the hole, and then later on when they had finished, I felt okay, and when I looked at the hole, it was just a small incision, vertical. And I wondered what that was.
Some of this, to some degree, is ancient memories of Atalantean connection.
Oh, God, I knew that.
Why did you ask? Some of it, to some degree, is interaction with what you would call extraterrestrial consciousness. And together it is a blending to create, let us say, to synthesize, in its symbolic terminology, the bringing together of your awareness of some of those dolphin connections, and some of the Atlantean connections, and some of the extraterrestrial connections, in blending it all together, all the different levels, symbolically, into simply now a balancing, a blending, a centering of all the things you are attached to, connected to, all the things that give you sustenance, in that sense. Understand? It is a synthesizing of many different points of view you have been into one idea, one new being, one new persona.
Because, like a couple nights later, I asked in my dream before I went to sleep, what does the tuna fish in the hole mean? And again, what came to me is I was in front of a body of water, and I stuck out a fishing pole, and I thought, I hate the fish, I don't want to wait for hours, and then I just said, I waved my hand, I said, oh yeah, I can call them, and they came, a fish immediately just came up and took a bite, and I reeled it in. So
the idea is simply your ability to draw in all the information you need, to rely upon that as delivering information. The dolphins, to some degree, now and then, on a level that, for now, we will not technically explain, can actually use the idea of what you call your tuna fish to act as go-between messengers, chemically speaking, between themselves in certain ways. And it is one of the reasons they are around, aside from the idea of sustenance, what you call many of your school of tuna in your ocean. It is because they have a particular type of relationship, much to some degree, similar to what you would have with what you call a dog or a cat.
Oh.
Understand?
Yeah.
So, just as your animals, your dogs, your cats, serve to reflect to you certain ideas in your humaniform level of reality, your tuna fish serves the same function to some degree for the dolphins, although it is slightly different. So you are simply recognizing now that because you are associating more with the dolphin energy, that you have a wider range of pets. A wider range of reflective guides in what you call the animal kingdom that serve to reflect different ideas of information you can receive about yourself on many different levels. Understand?
Yeah, I guess so. There's nothing real specific that these things were telling me besides that. I mean, there was no...
There may be some specifically intertwined messages, but they will all come out if you simply act like the overall blended being you now are beginning to recognize that you are. We simply lay the foundation down for you that allows you to recognize the momentum of the particular direction in which you can move and bring all the specifics bubbling to the surface in your own good timing. We are not here to delineate all the specifics, all the wiring that you are creating yourself to be. Just the general conductivity, move in that direction, and all of the reasons for all the specific wiring will make themselves plain. Understand?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Shooting. Hi. And to you, good day.
I have a question on reincarnation.
All right.
And a lot of it has to do with your policy of like looking for what excites you.
All right. Our policy, yes.
Yes, that's right. And I was wondering about if the whole policy behind reincarnation is progressing and expanding and doing things that maybe you did not have a chance to do or for some reason didn't complete in a previous existence.
It can be used that way, yes.
Then wouldn't it follow somewhat that we are put here for challenges, to be put in positions to expand ourselves?
In a sense, but you are not put here. You put yourselves.
Okay, that's okay. If we
Yes.
put ourselves in, so then that policy of doing whatever excites you seems
Yes.
to be somewhat counterproductive.
Oh, no.
In
You will still discover, you will still grow. And the idea, in a sense, of the overall challenge of your reality is in coming through the idea of limitation and learning how to transform limitation into unlimited expression, even as strong a limitation as you have created upon your planet. That's the overall challenge.
well, shouldn't we be looking for limitations and challenges in order to progress faster?
The things that you can use in that way that are representative of limitations, that you can blend within you, are representative of your growth, of your expansion. Transforming a limitation into something that is no longer a limitation is the whole idea of growth and expansion. The idea is simply now that you have been using your limitations for many thousands of years. You are running out of them. You are at the end of the cycle of that particular type of challenge. You are now going on to something that can be looked at as a challenge if you wish it to be. And perhaps it is this for many of you. Since a lot of you think that peace will be very boring, your challenge is to understand that it can be very exciting and to create it to be so.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of like if you're in a relationship with someone and
Yes.
if the relationship is not going well, then do you look upon it as a way to do something that you haven't been able to do in a previous existence?
You can look at it that way, yes. It doesn't have to be looked at that way, and it isn't always connected to another existence, but if you wish to look at it that way, you can.
Okay, well then how do you know if you're looking at it as a way of expanding something that happened in a previous existence, or you're looking at it as something that should be an impediment to your future?
There is no thing that should be an impediment to your future. The idea of whether it is a stem from a previous existence or not has really nothing to do with the idea that if you see a limitation in your life that you don't prefer, that the idea is, if you want to change it into something that is not a limitation. No matter where it originated from, no matter what the momentum is connected to, the whole idea is that if you prefer it not to be a limitation, then learn how to transform it.
I see. Well, what is the value then of knowing, say, a past life then?
It can have some value to certain individuals, but one of the reasons we are always relatively hesitant to delve into the idea of past life is because from our perspective, you really don't need to know anything about a past life to fully live the life you are living now, because you have all the things you need in any given life to live that life to the fullest. Sometimes, maybe, because of the way you have set yourself up, it might serve your memory, your reflections, your guidance to be aware of an idea that you call a past life notion. But you don't have to be. Because remember, you are speaking linearly, and all these lives are going on simultaneously anyway. They are not truly in the past. They are simply different ways you have of perceiving the being that you are. They are, in a sense, cross-references going on right now. Again, much in the same way that all of the programs on your radio device all exist, coexist with each other simultaneously. And you can switch your dial back and forth, perhaps gleaning a bit of this program, a bit of this program, a bit of this program, and put it all together in whatever way you want to. But for many of the things you wish to do in this particular life, all the information you really need is on the setting your dial is tuned to now. Any bleed through that needs to be there from any other life is automatically there, not necessarily in ways that allow you to think it comes from another life, but in ways that is translated in terms you can use in the present. You may not recognize it as bleed through. You don't have to recognize it as bleed through. That's why you don't necessarily have to be aware of the information as specifically coming from another life. The information from any other life you need to live this life is already with you, but maybe in terms that make sense in the present life, not necessarily making sense from the idea of a past or future life. There may be many things you are aware of that you're aware of because of other lives, but it seems that you're aware of the information now because it comes in the terminology that serves you now.
Well, I was thinking in terms of if you establish some kind of a pattern in this life.
Yeah.
That if you went and you looked at what happened in your past life, it might explain what the pattern is in this life.
Yes, but remember that when you establish a pattern in this life, you are creating the past life you will discover to reinforce the idea of the pattern you established in the present.
And then there'd be no need to, I understand that, but then there'd be no need, you really can just look for what excites you the most. You don't need to...
Absolutely. That's all there is to it. You really can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sharing.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. Well, I didn't know I was going to get picked. I just put my name in the box and I got picked, so...
Well, you must have had an idea.
I have. You know, I've been meaning to ask you. You were, about a few months ago, you were talking about the Kachina.
Yes.
That you were exploring the Kachina
Yes.
idea. And I wonder if there is any kind of a correlation. Somehow we can use their energy or
Yes.
something to help us so we don't have another big earthquake. I don't know if there's some kind of a correlation there between them, but I feel like, you know, that there's...
To some degree, in a sense, there is.
Is there? Oh, could you tell me what it is?
Go and discuss with your American Indian culture some of the ideas of what their energy can be used for.
Okay.
Relate to the earth. Talk to the earth. Become aware of the consciousness of the earth. And then you will understand why the earth is doing what it is doing and when it will do it.
Really?
Yes. And you can understand how much of that energy can be redirected in other ways.
That sounds good.
It is up to you.
Okay.
Remember that no matter what happens, whatever vibration you are will determine what of what happens you experience. Understand? Your fear will attract you to a negative circumstance. Because your fear says, I believe the most likely reality that can happen to me is a negative one. If you simply understand you have no need for that particular type of experience, or that if you do go through it, you will use it in a positive way, then you will always be able to get out of it something that you will be able to use in a positive way. And you will go through it in a positive way, and it won't affect you negatively.
Great. Well, that makes me feel a heck of a lot better.
It is not really per se for that purpose that I have said this. The idea simply is to allow you, as you say, to get a handle on what you choose, on what you decide is the reality vibration you are. Because you cannot experience any physical event that is not the frequency you are on. Period.
Okay.
Does that serve you?
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you very much. The people on your planet that you call the Hopi can tell you much about Kachina energy.
Okay, thank you, Bashar.
Well, thank you very much. Pleasant dreams. Sharing.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I wanted to ask you a question that I asked my parents, but I didn't get a very good answer about.
Well, you obviously got an appropriate one, however.
Yeah, that's true. And it was about sex.
All right.
And I wanted to ask you, aside from procreation, what is the purpose of sex on this planet? And
the alignment of energy points within you. Accessing consciousness, different levels of consciousness, including the physical level, in a different way, in one of the ways it can be done. It is one of the ways you can align all levels of your energy, of your consciousness.
Okay, so why is there so much guilt and so much dis-ease and so much upset around the sexual issue? Why is it a mass
That's
consciousness?
what I would like to know.
Well,
it is mostly because of some of the fears that your society generated, certain ideas, certain perspectives of limitation, and being out of control and fearing to discover portions of yourself, fearing to love yourself, believing you don't deserve the love. All these ideas and many more issues all have intertwined to create all the things that your society has been going through recently and for many thousands of years with regard to respecting its own intimacy. Understand?
yes.
Many different ideas that are simply a product of the definitions of limitation you have placed upon yourself. The denial of different portions of yourself as you have created these portions to exist. The ability to forget that you can function as a whole being. And then when individuals stop functioning as whole beings, the idea of guilt, of jealousy, created the notions you call laws and moral perspectives that would then forbid anyone else from feeling that way. Because some individuals feared it so much, they couldn't even stand to see anyone else getting in touch with it. It became bad, wrong, evil. Understand?
Yeah, that's my parents. Sorry. That's not very familiar.
No, all right. But generally speaking, it is simply, aside from the idea of what you call procreation, one of the ways beings can express the connection to all the different levels, all the different polarities of the energy that they are, including the physical level. Because the physical level cannot be denied. It is obviously just as valid as any other level, or it wouldn't exist. But it can be used with integrity and without it. Anything can be used with integrity and without it. Just being a thing, just the fact that something exists in and of itself, doesn't mean that it is inherently positive or inherently negative. The existence of the thing doesn't determine that one way or another. How you use it, how you view it, does. So, individuals, in that sense, that fear it, on many levels then, are basically reflecting a belief within themselves that they, in certain circumstances, would reflect it negatively, without integrity. They are not necessarily seeing the full integrity of their own being. Understand?
Yes.
Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yeah, I just had one tiny more question.
All right.
All right. It was about sex in the future. I mean, as you're our future selves, in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, is the sexual act, I mean, the exchange of sexual energy, is there a different way of doing it where you're from? Is there...
In our society, it is similar to your own, although in your terms it has evolved into more of an energy act. There is still the idea to some degree of what you would call physiological proximity. But the idea now is that it is more of an energy act. It is more an exchange directly and an activation of the cellular structures within the body. That is due to the actual flash exchange of energy more than what you would typify as a physiological act of procreation. It becomes less and less physical, and in a sense, on many ways, when you blend the physical and the non-physical together, it becomes less of a distinction. It becomes both the same thing. All one act, all one idea of blending. So in a sense, not meaning this to sound strange to your ears, but in a sense, because of what our society is, any such exchange in our society between any individuals, on some level, is actually felt by the whole society. And that adds to our overall ecstasy and sense of joy. Understand?
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Sharing!
day, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I just learned about some things that have been excavated in South America. There are a life-size figure of a man, a woman, and a little boy that are made out of pure quartz crystal. And I've also just learned that in the Wyoming-Montana area of our country, they're uncovering a crystal skull that is 9 feet in diameter and weighs 1,000 pounds.
So are beginning now to discover many of the ideas that were understood by civilizations on your planet, by all of you in those civilizations on your planet in your past. You are now regaining and remembering the idea of who many of you have been and many of the things you have all created. Many of the things you knew then are what you are rediscovering now. Many of the aspects that represented the blending and the balancing and the vitality and the conviction of the society you were then, in touch with the natural elements themselves. Now that you are rediscovering these things, archaeologically speaking, you are now able to understand the principles upon which they were created and apply those principles in what you call your contemporary society.
Can you give me some idea of what the origin of these are? Are they from our planet, or are they
Yes, they are.
from Atlantean or Lemurian time?
Some of them, yes.
Both?
Yes. The idea in general is that the knowledge was shared by many of those civilizations and manifested by many specific cultures around your world, especially what you call your American Indian cultures. The idea simply is because they did not allow themselves to lose touch as quickly with the idea of the natural communication with other dimensions of consciousness and your planetary consciousness. These crystalline objects basically contain within them energy patterns in the crystal that represent the ability, if you mimic the energy pattern in the crystal within your own consciousness, the ability to transcend to different dimensional planes. They are keys in that way. Understand?
This relates to the Mayan experience we discussed previously?
Yes. These are more accelerated and more ancient versions of these ideas. Higher power. Which shows now that your consciousness as a society is beginning to blend sufficiently to be able to take advantage of these larger powered artifacts. Understand?
Yes.
So identification, what you may call meditation upon, identification with these crystalline forms, can allow many crystallizations to take place within your consciousness that will accelerate the impact of your individual consciousness around the world, your planet, many times, and throughout universal reality. They are signals, signposts, beacons, mirrors, reflections, amplifiers of your consciousness. Amplifiers of the crystalline consciousness you are all becoming. You can use them that way if you wish, and enter new dimensions of yourself. Understand?
Yes. Can you discuss the legend about the little boy figurine? The Indians say that if he's removed from the mountain that he's buried in, that their village or their area will be destroyed.
Basically, not that that has to happen in that way, but basically what is being understood is that if they are energy gates, they do have a certain relation to the energy fields of your planet. Where they are is for a reason. They amplify the energy in the most harmonious way. To move them out of alignment to some degree would be analogous to having one of your machines running on high speed and taking a part of it away in the middle of the operation. What do you think would happen? Understand?
Yes.
So the idea simply is that the balance of the energy includes those figurines because their vibration has been matched to that area. They amplify the magnetic vortex of that area. To remove them would be, in a sense, to set the machine askew.
How does that relate to the Mayan skulls that have been discovered and removed to museums or to private collections?
To some degree, they are a little more portable. They are, in a sense, what you would call remote aspects, being only what you would call the skull, the head of a whole figurine. So they are the eyes, the remote probes, the remote units that can be moved, in a sense, to many different locales. Now, they are all each keyed to specific locales, but they can be rekeyed. Understand?
Yes, and I just want to ask if these new discoveries are a part of the crystal skulls that have been discovered. Supposedly, when all the artifacts have been uncovered, there will be great information for all of our universe when they're all brought together.
In a sense, yes. If any individual in any locale sits down with any one of those skulls, they can communicate not only with different dimensions of experience, if they are clear enough, they can communicate with anyone else who has a skull, anywhere. Understand?
But do they have more power when they're all brought together in one location?
They can be amplified logarithmically in that way, yes. They will have a different purpose then, a different function. They will then be able to literally produce the combined magnetic vortex that can be literally physically felt to be a gate, a dimension of experience. At this time, not meaning to instill fear in any of you, I would be cautious about doing that, because it will cause a type of acceleration that will force anyone present in that area to really face all the aspects of their consciousness. All of them.
Thank you very much, Bashar.
Thank you for your willingness to now develop crystal clarity.
Am still creating patterns of relationships in which I feel unsatisfied and in which I have conflict.
Are you assigning the same old meanings to things that may simply on the surface appear to be the same old patterns? Just because it looks the same doesn't mean it means the same. If you know you are a new person every moment of time, have you given yourself the opportunity to assign a new meaning to what may appear to be an old pattern, but doesn't have to create the effect of an old pattern if you give a new meaning to it?
Thank you. I see that I have grown through my patterns. It's not the same pattern. What's the same to me, what disturbs me, and what I wish to move forward from is having conflict and having dissatisfaction, as if I'm always searching for something different than what I have. And
all right, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you create a particular expectation about the idea of what a relationship ought to be?
Yes.
Why? What do you know it can be? And if you know it can be, why create a specific expectation on how it should be? Why not assume that you will simply attract, even though the manifestation may come in unexpected ways, what it can be, and that it will serve you in a positive way, rather than necessarily narrowing down the specific definitions of what you think it should be, only allowing those specific definitions to represent to you the things you want, rather than allowing unexpected, spontaneous things to also represent what you want.
In many ways, my current relationship, I have done that in order to be in this relationship.
Yeah.
I have totally different, what I'm getting out of it is different than what I thought I was looking for a relationship. What excites me about it is different.
All right.
And yet, the sense of and yet I am again in conflict.
All right.
And
but again, also, if I may interrupt you for a moment, remember, if you always, at the same time, are recognizing that a circumstance and a situation is really not representative of what you prefer in the overall sense, the idea is to realize that it all begins with the relationship to yourself. And that when you allow that to be complete on every level that you can imagine exists within your consciousness, then it isn't that you need a relationship to feel complete. And if what you have as a relationship is not reflective of your preference, you don't have to be physically in it.
Yes, could you suggest to me what it is that I have not completed in myself that...
Well, can you answer the following question? Do you need to have a relationship?
No.
All right. Why?
Well, I'm self-sufficient the way I am. I don't need it, but I certainly want to have a relationship.
Why?
I want to be close, to be intimate, to share, to have the depth that you can have in a one-on-one, seemingly more depth than in having a one-on-many. I want to... I said seemingly, I know it's all...
All right.
And yet that's the way it seems, and I want to
all right.
have a family.
May I ask you another question?
Yes.
Be as honest as you care to be.
Okay.
Do you really express yourself in life as boldly as you really want to. In all things.
Yes.
All things.
Very bold.
Very bold, very bold. All right, very bold. Is that expression something that is within integrity, or are there times when it is invalidational or judgmental?
Yes, I'm judgmental. Definitely judgmental. Definitely the thing that I think I need to work on the most about myself, that I think is the most obstructive.
Why are you choosing to be judgmental? How does it serve you to be judgmental?
I have the sense that it's a way I have of protecting myself.
Protecting from what?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking.
Ah.
But I see that I use the judgmentalness. It causes distance. Part
All
of
right.
me seeks tremendous depth, and as I get close to it, I seem to be seeking distance. I'm judgmental.
All right.
I could also say, well, I learned it from my parents. I could say all those things, but I really would like to, I'm really seeking in this conversation an awareness that will allow me to move away from being so judgmental.
So if you know, or if you believe that the idea of being judgmental is what supplies the difference, and perhaps what supplies what you have called the repetition of patterns of relationships, then if you simply continue to assimilate the reasons for why you would choose to be judgmental, you will then integrate yourself completely and will attract relationships accordingly. Until you cease to be judgmental in that way, probably you will still attract relationships that will give you a sparkling opportunity to continue to be judgmental.
Right.
So, remember also that when you say, well, a part of me wishes depth, it is either all of you or it is not at any given moment. Remember that you are not a collection of parts. And if you stop thinking of yourself that way, maybe you will stop thinking of other people that way. Understand?
Yes. Thank you.
Does that assist you?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you very much.
All my love to you.
And to you. Shooting.
Hi, Bashar.
Good night to you.
I have been using the Robert Monroe hemisync tapes to explore other dimensions and to communicate and to explore more of my total self. And while I'm using these tapes, I have had these experiences where I feel a lot of joy and understanding. And later on, I feel that I forget what it was and that I don't understand anymore.
Oh, no.
And
you have assimilated. You are using it. You don't have to maintain analytical awareness of all the memories to simply know that it has sunk in and that you are using it. The idea is to be spontaneous with it, not to, in a sense, cram your memory full of facts. Understand?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's more the feeling that I miss, sort of like the feeling of
but one moment.
One
moment. Your definition of what is happening is the only thing creating a sense of loss. Remember once again that because your society is used to recognizing things by their differences, that when you match the frequency of something and you don't feel the difference between you and that as strongly, your first assumption is that it has gone away. Rather than understanding that you have simply matched its frequency, so you don't notice as much of a difference anymore, because you have become that vibration. Understand? It hasn't gone anywhere. You've become it. That's why you don't notice the difference as strongly as you used to. You have elevated yourself to another level where then something else can come in. To sit there and assume that you have lost it or it has diminished is to simply take the old definitional point of view that once you don't feel a difference, it must be because it's gone somewhere. Rather than you having assimilated to that level, so there isn't any difference between you anymore. It's simply because your society is used to measuring things or recognizing the existence of energy by the differences between you rather than the similarities. Understand?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I don't feel that that's it.
All right.
Because some of these understandings, what I do remember of them, one of the things is that this understanding is that there is no negativity and that
one moment. There is positive and negative energy. There always will be as a polarity expression. It is simply that you do not have to choose negative manifestation in your experiential life. But the more you become aware of more of yourself, the more you're going to become aware that there will always be positive and negative. Understand?
Yes.
Negativity, in that sense, exists. It's a part of creation. You don't have to choose it. But becoming more aware of yourself means you will be more aware of more ways you could choose to be negative, because you are becoming more aware of everything. So you're going to become more aware of that too. Doesn't mean you have to choose it, but you're going to become more aware that you could choose it. Understand?
Yes.
Now, if there is a particular feeling you sometimes think you may have lost and wish to recapture, well then, feel it. Invent it again. Create it right now. Remember that any time you, quote unquote, remember what it was like, as you are remembering it, you're creating it in the present right then. Only your assumption that it is a memory of something that's not happening now causes the separation that doesn't allow you to feel it now. Because all you're saying is, I remember what it used to feel like then. But in having the memory, you're actually creating that vibration in the present. If you recognize that your memory is being created in the present, you will feel the same way now while you're having the memory. Understand?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm wondering, because I don't want to just keep on repeating myself.
You aren't.
Like
you never can.
I don't have conscious control over these experiences. It seems like they just happen.
Many things you may wish to happen automatically, seemingly spontaneously, seemingly outside of yourself, in order for you to have a spontaneous occurrence. The idea is not always to be analytically aware of the fact that you are choosing it, because then you don't necessarily have physical spontaneous occurrences and events in your life. Understand? You're not going to have analytical awareness of everything you choose in physical reality, because then, if you quote-unquote knew every single step you would ever take, you wouldn't have to take them. And you wouldn't get anything out of them by going through them spontaneously. Understand?
Yeah, so
Yes.
like my goal is to be able to use this perspective all the time and to integrate it into my physical life instead of having
Well, go
something-
ahead.
Well, it's not integrating because I don't seem
What
to be able
makes
to...
you think it's not? Why are you defining that it's not integrating? Why are you choosing to believe it's not?
Because I feel very elated when I'm using these
Yes.
tapes, and
Yes.
the rest of the time I'm usually depressed.
Why would you choose that?
I don't know.
What is the belief system within you that makes you think there's a difference between those two times?
Well, that's what I'm exploring, because it seems like when I'm in that elated state, I'm just delighted with everything that's going on in my life.
Yes.
And the rest of the time, I don't like it.
All right, but remember, as we have discussed, a feeling is a reaction to a belief. So if you feel the idea is that you are not elated, then you believe for some reason that there's enough of a difference between those two times that you can feel that differently. Also, do remember that we have discussed the idea of depression as only being meditation that you judge to be negative. So many times, all you may be doing is be in a meditated state and assimilate what you have learned in the tapes, but you're judging it to be depression. Understand? It may only be meditation, the assimilation of the information in a calm and balanced state. But because you do not feel the elation in the way you're used to feeling it or in the way you think you ought to, all of a sudden you automatically apply a negative label to the idea of what you're going through, rather than assuming it's a part of the natural positive process as well. Just because you don't feel the same doesn't mean it can't be positive. Many times you will feel a certain energy in a certain way, and then you won't feel it that way anymore, because it's now up to you to apply it in your life and generate the feeling through your actions. Understand?
Yes.
Is this helping you?
Well, I'll listen to the tape later.
Listen to the tape now. The tape in your consciousness, the tape you are right now. Remember, you are the tape. You are the information. And if even it will or can work as a suggestion for you, as a technique for you, as a process, as a ritual for you, if you pretend you're listening to the tape now, do you feel excited? Well,
Yeah.
Well then,
Spacey.
pretend you're listening to the tape anytime. Just because you're not physically doing it doesn't mean you can't do it. And that's what it's all about anyway, is allowing you to start relying more on yourself and less on the external tools. In many of the interactions that we are having now with individuals on your planet in what you would call private sessions, and many of you will attest to this, your tape recorders don't function. Because it allows you to focus on the information as you. It allows you to start relying on yourself, not on the external tool. So, if that's the feeling you want to generate when you are walking down your street, generate it because you want to. Not because you need the tape to do it. Because you want to. Because the tape may represent your ability to do it. If the tape simply represents your ability to generate that feeling, remember the tape isn't giving you that feeling. You are. So if you can give yourself that feeling when you're listening to a tape, why can't you give yourself that feeling when you're doing anything else? You don't need the tape to generate the feeling. The tape has shown you you can generate the feeling. So generate it anytime you want to. Understand?
Yes.
Does that serve you?
Yes, so I'm wondering, why can't I remember, though? I still
Remember
would like
what?
to be able to remember some of these experiences.
How do you know you had them if you can't remember them?
Because I remember a little bit of it.
Oh, a little bit. Then use that little bit as all you need to know. Again, you are creating an expectation on what you think you should retain analytically. Whatever you retain, that's what you need. Does it not give you joy to have the perspective that if all you need to remember to have ecstasy is just a little bit, then doesn't that mean you're a lot farther along than you thought? Well?
I don't know. I sort of think of it as going, to Japan and then coming back and having forgotten half of Japan.
You never forget anything in the way you need to remember it. Again, trust in the way you are. The way you remember it is the way you need to. Use it. When you use it, you will then know anything else you need to know. The only reason you seem to be blocking the idea is because you're not using what you are being shown you can use. You are insisting on the whole picture before you will use what you are getting, calling what you're getting a part of the picture, rather than recognizing that what you're getting is in and of itself a whole picture. Understand? Stop calling what you're remembering a part. It is a whole idea. Function that way, use it as a whole, and you will understand that it is all you need. You will remember everything else you need to remember when you need to. This is your opportunity and your ability to learn to label things in a different way. To understand that every single component is in and of itself a whole idea. This is your way of discovering the holographic structure of creation. Every part contains the information of the whole. Here's an analogy for all of you. Imagine what you call a grid laid out to infinity. Lines go this way, lines go this way. Creating what you call little squares and blocks, laid out flat, two-dimensionally, as you say. Got the picture? Place anywhere on that grid, a mirrored reflective ball bearing. And notice, in the surface of that ball bearing, even though it is warped into a sphere, is the picture of the entire grid. All the information of the grid is in that one spot. You don't have to walk to infinity, to the end of the grid, in order to see it all, in order to know you have it all. It's all in that one spot. All the information you need. Understand?
Yes.
So anything you get that you think is a piece is actually, in and of itself, the whole idea. Use it that way, and you will get all the information you need to out of it. If you insist on having to have it in the format of the grid all laid out, it will take you more time to walk the perimeter of the grid to get all of the intersections. 'Tis up to you. All right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharing.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Oh. Okay. I would like to know.
Speak up so that all may share.
I would like to know.
Be bold.
What I should do, what I can do to discipline myself to accomplish what I came here to do. Writing.
What did you come here
Writing.
to do? Writing.
I'm a writer, and I feel like there's all this time slipping me by, and I'm not accomplishing.
There it goes. Here it comes again. There it goes. Right between your fingers. Now, are you a writer?
Yes.
Does it excite you?
Yes.
Are you writing?
Not as much as I want to.
Why not?
My energies are focused in other areas right now. And
are they as exciting as being a writer?
No.
Why are you doing them?
Because I need to make money right now.
Why can you not make money as a writer?
I feel I can. It's just that it
You
takes
feel you
time.
can? When? When? Is it that time again? Is it that time? Time for the threshold of believability. Do you wish to play? Yes,
play?
no, maybe.
So I wish to play?
Do you wish to play?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Have you taken the threshold of believability meter before?
Yes.
Do you want to take it again?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Get centered. Take a deep breath. All of you can play along with your own idea. Focus on the thing that excites you the most for you, the writer. Got it?
Yes.
Now, be very honest. Very honest. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Be very honest. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, with absolutely no hesitation, do you believe that it will be absolutely no problem, absolutely possible for you to be a successful writer in 20 of your years? Will you be a successful writer by then?
Yes.
No problem?
No problem.
10 years?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You can see yourself doing it, yes?
Absolutely.
10 years, more than enough time to become the writer I prefer to be, yes?
Yes.
5 years.
Very possible.
Very possible.
Okay.
Not
Yes.
absolute, not certain, but very possible.
I know that it is. I just still have these doubts.
All right, that's all right. This is the first step in getting in touch with the doubts so you can transform the doubts. This is how you do it. Being honest with yourself about how long you really believe right now with all the doubt you think it will take to be what you want. That at least will put you squarely in touch with what your belief system is, what your doubts are. Now you have something to deal with. Now you know, all right, I have beliefs within me that make it only just very possible that I will be a writer in 5 years. Why would I believe? What would I have to believe in order for it to take 5 years? Examine your beliefs. Examine your doubts. Get in touch with the definition of them. Discover which ones you prefer to keep. Discover which ones you prefer to change. Change the ones you prefer. Rewrite them. Find out what the old definition is. Rewrite it. Create a new definition. Then take the threshold meter again and see if it is now less time. Now that you have changed some of the definitions, see if it will take less time. Understand?
Yes.
Now you can do this. As soon as you really believe you can be that idea, nothing will stop it. Nothing will stop the opportunities from coming into your life to allow you to be the idea it excites you the most to be. But it is up to you and your definitions. If you don't believe that it will support you, if you don't believe it will be effortless, if you really don't believe you can be that person now, you won't be. It's as simple as that.
I know that.
All right. So, get in touch with your definitions, get in touch with your belief systems, and treat that as a part of the idea you are excited about being. Do not see it as a block, as an interruption. It isn't. It is a part of who you are. Own it so you can change it. Don't deny it as being in your way, as taking a long time, as wasting time. If you invalidate it, you make it take longer to be what you prefer to be. Use the process as it occurs, and that's how you accelerate the idea more quickly. Because what you are doing, whatever you're going through, is a part of the idea it excites you to be. The things that come up are coming up for the purpose of giving you an opportunity to deal with what you have to deal with in order to be the idea that it excites you to be. They're not things you have to get out of the way in order to be that thing. They are a part of the being of that thing. Use them. Don't deny them. Who knows? All the things you are experiencing now may make a wonderful book. May give you the material you can write about. Will give you the different perspectives and points of view I would assume you would need to be the writer you want to be. Life for a writer is all material. Understand?
Yes.
Is this assisting you?
Very much.
And always remember that your imagination is the key. If you have a way you prefer to be that you believe you're not, envision the you prefer to be. Watch what that you does, how it acts. Because if it isn't who you are, it will act differently. Watch its attitudes, its actions. Watch how it handles the situations and circumstances in its life. Hand it the circumstances in your life and watch how it handles them. Handle them the same way, you'll get the same effect. That's what your imagination is for. That's the tool that it is. It's that simple. It's the template, the blueprint. Feel what it would be like to be that person, and you will be that person. Put all your senses into it. See the writer. See whatever you wish to be. See how the writer acts. See how the writer thinks. Feel how the writer feels. Have the tastes, the sights, the smells, the touches. Hear what the writer hears. And you will be the writer and have the lifestyle of the writer in your imagination. Get into it with all your senses. Be excited, because if you really believe that that writer in your imagination is you, you'd be excited about it. Be excited. The vibration of excitement will elevate you into that reality. Will attract that reality, that lifestyle, to you. Understand?
Yes.
Is this exciting you?
Yes.
Thank you. Believe that you can function as a writer. Attract opportunities into your life. Let yourself attract opportunities that you can act upon that will show you that you can make a living as a writer. Trust yourself. You can do it. You are a writer. If you really believe that, act like one. Understand?
Yes.
Thank you. It's all a matter of your attitude.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sharing.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
This is my first time here. I'm getting a lot out of it. My friends brought me. It's wonderful.
All right. Remember that every time is the first time, so it's the first time for me, too. Thank you for sharing with me my first time.
My first time.
This goes for all of you. Do proceed and share with all.
There was someone in my life a long time ago, a man I was very close to.
All right.
I'd like to know, I am trying to find this person now after many years.
Why?
I have a connection with him over many years.
Yes. You still do?
Yes.
Why are you, in this sense, trying to find him?
I have a need to know
Why?
what happened to him.
Why?
I have to tell him how important he was in my life.
Do you not think you have already done so?
Yes, and I want to confirm I have hired people to find out what happened.
All right.
And what I am told is that he was killed in Vietnam.
All right.
And then I am told he was a soldier missing in action.
All right.
I feel he was killed. I'd like to know what happened. His name is not on the Vietnam Memorial.
Name?
Gilbert.
Full name?
Gilbert Rantana.
Age in your terminology?
20.
Whether this may be valid in your time track or not, our strongest perception is that this individual is what you would call a little boy of approximately 7 or 8. In your terms, reincarnated. In dream reality, you always interact with this individual and have done so many times. Deliver your message there. Send your unconditional love. The child will get out of it what they need to. They may remember you in their dreams and may apply you in whatever way they need to, the memory of your love in their new life. But you always have the capacity of interacting in your dream reality, and you have already many times. But he cannot be as focused upon you at this time because of the new life that is being lived, at least according to our perception of this energy. Understand?
Yes. Is this a child I know?
It is not our perception that you do, at least not yet.
Is the spirit that was Gil still with me, even though the physical plane he's a child?
In one sense, as the oversoul, yes. But not in the direct sense you would mean it.
I understand.
One moment. The time flow on this, at this point for us, is what you would call relatively foggy. You may know of the child. It is our stronger perception that you do not. It seems, at least for now, in the way we perceive your energy, that you may have a stronger opportunity to know the child when the child, in your terms, is 15 to 17 years of age. May I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a teacher?
I'm a writer.
Our strongest perception is that the most likely, at least for now, this can change, most likely circumstance in which you may re-encounter this being at approximately the age of 15 to 17 will be in what you would call a class situation where you will be lecturing or teaching something to them.
And that's how I would recognize him?
Yes, you will recognize the energy. This is all we are allowed to share at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We thank you and simply always remind you, these are the perceptions of my consciousness through my time track. There may be variances as they apply to your time track. We have given you what is the strongest perception we can receive at this time. Remember that all things are fluid, but we have given you the strongest momentum we can perceive at this moment. Remember that you always have the stronger access to things that happen on your world because you are of your world. Use your dream reality and be in contact with this individual. Be aware of the communication you can have and are having and have had.
I will.
Thank you very much. Sharing.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
And I'm excited to talk to you.
Why?
Because it makes me excited.
All right. I'm very ecstatic to talk to you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I want to briefly tell you, about 4 years ago, I had a real startling experience.
Oh, all right.
I was at an amusement park, and I was sitting, drinking a cup of coffee, and somebody came by, and they were pushing a baby stroller, and in it was a little baby, and I hardly know what the little baby looked like other than it was a female child. But the child's eyes locked on me. I'm totally riveted to my eyes, and I just know that I knew those eyes from somewhere. The experience just almost demolished me for that day. I spent the whole rest of the day looking for that child, and I couldn't find it. Can you give me some insight in that?
Very strong past life connection. To some degree, a counterpart of the same soul you are, the oversoul that you are. A reflection, a brief encounter, as a timing device, as a signpost to awaken within you certain ideas, has been a very strong teacher for you in the past. And only needed to touch you briefly to remind you of many agreements you have made in this life. To kick off, I shall say, your momentum in certain ways. It was a fulfillment of one agreement you made within timing with others you have known that have been very close to you.
I'm a little confused. Are you saying it was a part of me, or are you saying it was another separate soul that I did
It is
know?
another individual that you have interacted with in many different lifetimes that to some degree is also an aspect of the oversoul you are also an extension of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. Do you have any way of knowing who it might be if I told you a person's name? Could you tell me yes or no, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. Try the name Adele Strassfield.
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. More often than not, you knew that individual as a male in other lives. Some attachment of what you would call Tibetan, some attachment of what you would call Atlantean. There are others, many others. But those are some of the strongest bells between you. Shooting.
Good afternoon, Bashar.
Good day to you.
Good day to you.
Speak up so that all may share. Be bold.
I have run across some things that are so exciting I had to come up and share them with everybody.
All right, by all means.
I wanted to go and find where the dolphins are, and my husband wanted to go and live in Arizona.
All right.
And yesterday, listen.
Listen.
Yesterday, a friend of mine sent me a folder in the mail, and lo and behold... Yes, synchronicity. It says desert dolphins.
Yes.
What has happened is that this lady called Mary Carolyn Meadows has designed what she's calling the Carefree Rejuvenation Product, which she is going to put in an area that is north of Phoenix. And it is going to be a big dolphin center as well as a big healing center. And she has been having visions through some of the rebirthing sessions she's been having. And the dolphins have been giving her the visions of how this should be constructed.
All right.
Part of it is going to be underground. It's going to be just a fantastic project. They're connecting up with some other group that is going to help them provide the seawater. The things that they're going to do at the center is people swimming with the dolphins after being prepared through various ways. They're going to work with handicapped children. There are going to be couples working with them for conscious conception, pregnancy, and birth, and water birth.
Yes, dolphins are very good at both of those.
And it says that the desert dolphins will be a major focus of the Health and Rejuvenation Center, which will offer a first-of-its-kind series of programs. It will be a synthesis of the latest and most ancient healing methodologies. In addition, they will have a Desert Dolphin Academy which is a creative learning from preschool to university level and an interglobal, interspecies think tank.
Hey.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes!
Their first... Their first international press conference is going to be on November 25th, and at the present time they have the preliminary write-up called the business plan done on it, but now they're looking for seed money in order to actually begin putting it together. But I called Arizona and talked to this lady today. I had to talk to her personally.
Hi.
And she said that they were planning on putting their first baby dolphins from a Florida dolphin center in their first tag beginning in April. That's what their time schedule is.
Hey. Many, many, many of the interactions you will be having will also be the product of the creation of what you would call centers on your seacoast to allow the dolphins to come and go. However, a few dolphins, for the purpose of these interactions, will be willing, for a time, to be within what you call some of your tanks for the purpose of those interactions. Do not worry about the idea of some of those that will volunteer for this in terms of what you would call captivity. Some of them, in that sense, are willing to do that and they know what they are doing. You are simply providing an environment for them to come and visit you, in that sense, as what you call specialists.
So anyway, next week I'm going out to Arizona and see this wonderful lady, and I told her that I would bring along some of the tapes that Daryl has done in channeling the dolphins, and she's ecstatic about that.
All right. Thank you for creating the excitement in your life. Thank you for recognizing that wherever you go, you are always in touch with all levels of consciousness, and you can manifest and materialize in the most unexpected ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
We leap for joy.
Me too.
At this timing, you may all enjoy a short break. We'll resume contact in approximately 10 to 15 of your minutes. I will say, continue.
Hi, Bashar.
Good day to you.
Thank you. Good day to you, too. Well, I have a dilemma.
A what?
A dilemma.
A dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Exciting.
Exciting dilemma.
Right.
All right.
Okay, a little background. I'll be as brief as I can be.
Background.
Hey. Okay, since I've come back to Los Angeles in the last 5 months,
Hey.
I've had some really great things happen and spiritualistic growth and everything. And
everything. All right.
Yeah. And
yes, not but
and I've had incredible amount of disasters. I mean, life-threatening situations.
Oh my!
Yes.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. Yes, I have been trapped in elevators after earthquakes. I've been saved a man's life who got attacked. I've had my little kitty fly out the window and fall 5 floors.
Oh.
And one thing keeps happening after another, but the
Very
greatest
exciting.
thing that's coming out of all this is that, unlike anything before, since I've come to see you especially, these disasters right in the face of it all, I always feel a connection with you, and a thought stream comes through my head that has 3 words to it, and it just goes, not this time.
Yes.
And at that point, the disaster entirely resolves.
Yes.
Yeah. So, now.
Yes. So
now I'm getting some good positive things out of all this, right?
Then they're not disastrous, are they?
Well, no. They get averted, right?
Yes.
Well, now.
Do you remember what the nomenclature, what the definition, what the ancient meaning of your word disaster is?
No.
Disaster, separated from the stars.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Always you are connected, and when you know you're connected, you're never separated, and it isn't a disaster. It's always transformable.
It does. It just turns right around.
Yes.
Okay, so now,
Yes.
my husband, after all these seeming disasters,
yes. After all these exciting events,
yes, he wants to leave Los Angeles and go back to Canada.
All right.
Well, I'd be going back to Canada. He'd be going to Canada. And he's very insistent on it, and I'm not all too sure that I want to leave.
Why the insistence?
He believes he can have a new beginning there. He's from El Salvador and has been
all right.
persecuted. In that
is the decision, in that sense, therefore, made because it is representative of what the individual really desires to do, or is it representative of the individual running from something?
What he really wants to do. He really wants that. And he wanted to do that before he met me, as a matter of fact.
All right. Mm-hmm. And so?
And so here I am going, well, I don't know. Do I want to leave Los Angeles now or what? I'm faced with this decision.
Do you?
Well, I'd like to leave Los Angeles, but I didn't want to leave right now.
Oh, all right. When will you leave?
Well, there were some things I wanted to prepare first.
Such as?
Such as more money.
More money? Why?
To live on when I first get back to Toronto.
Why not simply attract what you need when you get there?
Yeah, I thought of that.
Yes, well.
Okay, that sounds good.
It's up to you if you're willing to trust it.
Yes, I do. I could trust that.
Because if that's one of the reasons, in that sense, then that doesn't necessarily say you don't want to move. It simply says that you are hesitant about it because of your belief system.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Understand?
Yes, I do.
Anything else?
Well, one other thing that's kind of keeping me here, and that is, I was talking to you before, I was telling you about the band I had gotten together. Well, now it's really going well.
Oh, all right.
And I'd have to separate myself out from that.
I see.
Uh-huh.
Why do you have to?
Well, because if I go to Canada, they're staying here.
Oh, all right.
Uh-huh. So I feel like...
Which excites you more? Heavy sigh.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just because I know what I have here already.
Oh, all right.
You know.
But which excites you more? Does it excite you to go to your Canada?
Yeah.
Why?
I really like it there.
You really like it there?
Yeah, I like the seasons. I like everything about it.
All right. What is it that excites you about your band?
Music.
Music?
Yes, the creation of it.
All right.
The possibilities of
all
the future.
Right. Does it have to be that music, or can it be just as exciting with other expressions, other connections?
You mean another band?
Yes.
Yeah, I know some real good musicians in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be that exciting there.
All right. If you really believed that you could bring it all together in your Canada as easily as you have it now, would that make a difference in your decision?
Yes.
Would it be easier for you to go?
Yes.
Well then.
Okay.
If that's the only thing standing in your way, then allow yourself to trust that you can bring it together just as easily. In other words, it may not be specifically that you do not want to leave this band because you think it can't happen anywhere else. If you really believe it can happen in the place that it excites you most to be, then you won't necessarily have to hold on to something that you don't necessarily need to hold on to.
I see.
Understand?
Yes, I do. Well, that does it. I'm going.
Oh, all right.
But
and
I'm
remember,
not going to get to see you.
remember.
Okay.
You are always connected to everything. And many times, as we have perceived on your planet, when you make a move that, quote-unquote, physiologically separates you from something you have been with for a long time, sometimes, in certain cases, you actually wind up interacting with those things more often than when you were physically together.
Yes.
Just different ways.
Right.
And again, it is an understanding, an opportunity for you to realize that physical distance isn't all that critical that you will be able to be connected to whatever you really need to connect to, no matter where and when you are, if you are where it really excites you most to be. Understand?
Yes.
You'll be able to connect to anything, anywhere, anytime, in the way you really need to.
Even you?
Why not?
I understand.
I am not in your Los Angeles area anyway.
I know.
But remember, remember. The idea is not to need me. The idea is you have you.
Yeah, well, I don't need you. It's just I love the exchange.
I love you as well.
You know.
But the idea of having a real equal exchange with us is going and doing what it excites you the most to do. Understand?
Yes,
That's how you speak to us as an equal.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you also for the connection I had when these things did occur. I definitely felt the connection and the assistance.
Our total vibration and the vibration of all within the association is always being beamed to your planet. Simply remember that when you tap into it, you are tapping into your version of that energy.
Okay.
You may recognize the flavor of our consciousness because you are familiar with the idea of placing that energy within our power rather than within yours. It will come with the flavor simply to remind you that what's going on is that you are now operating for yourself on the same level you perceive we operate on.
Yes, I did feel a blending there that was both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bashar. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your new elevator ride. Shooting!
Yeah, good day, Bashar.
Good day to you.
You might be interested in knowing that quite a few of us who come to visit you are called Basharites.
Why?
God knows, because your name is Bashar, and we're right, I guess, for coming here.
All right.
I just made that up.
Thank
Anyway,
you. My name is not Bashar, but thank you.
That's true. Anyway, I'd like to ask you my question after I ask you a question. Many moons ago, there was a lady who was standing here asking you about her mother who had cancer. I believe it was her mother. And without going into everything, you mentioned something that I could never get an answer from most people, is you said, get a disease that's a good disease. And the closest thing I can think of instead of cancer is maybe a 24-hour flu. But a number of people I asked just couldn't get the concept of what a good disease would be.
That is not a direct quote.
Well, it's close enough for government work, isn't it?
No.
No.
The idea that we are, in that sense, expressing is that sometimes individuals will create dis-ease for a positive reason. And the idea is that they can sometimes also create a dis-ease that in your nomenclature is not as negatively severe in order to serve the same purpose. Those are the ideas that were being expressed.
Okay, I like that much better. Anyway, what I wanted to ask you was this question of integrity.
Okay.
Now, if I go to the grocery store and I stick my hand in the peanut jar and I take some and eat them, and then I go eat a couple of grapes before I buy them, does this mean I ain't got no integrity?
If you let the people know that you did that, then you have.
Well, one day there was a sign there, and it says, do not sample. And the guy came over to me and says, you're not supposed to sample. I said, I'm not sampling, I'm stealing. So he looks at me, says, okay, and walked away.
All right. An opportunity to discuss definition.
Yeah, okay, but the thing, I guess I really do not have a good understanding of the word integrity. Could you just give a synopsis on this? And
basically, the idea follows suit into what you generally think of as being honest and open and communicative, and in that sense, respecting other points of view and basic agreements that have been set up between you, and before you change those agreements, allowing all individuals that would be involved in that change to understand what's going on. That is basically one foundational expression or explanation or definition of integrity. Functioning as a whole, the whole event that you are in being interconnected with everyone else. And the idea of trusting that whatever it is you really need, you will be supplied with, one way or another. In other words, you don't have to, quote-unquote, bend or break what you have already agreed with someone else is a particular agreement or rule. In order to allow that idea to transform, you can simply attract to yourself an opportunity to get what you need in a way that, quote-unquote, naturally circumvents what may have been previous agreements without necessarily doing it in lieu of their knowledge of it, in opposition to their knowledge of the change. To put it on very simple terms, in order for something to change as an agreement you have made, you don't have to be sneaky. You can be out in the open and allow something you really need to be changed automatically with the agreement of all connected in the event. Now, to some degree, what you did, to some degree, is representative of one way to do it, since if you were very blatant about it and attracted an individual that noticed what you were doing and had a very open discussion about what was going on, and they allowed it, truly allowed it, to be something that was representative of a fulfillment of their integrity and their definitions and their agreements, then that's one thing. But if there was the attraction of the idea that you were doing something that you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, other individuals were presenting to you as, in the consensus reality, a lack of integrity, then that can be representative of a lack of integrity. The idea is simply that it can be approached from many different ways. It depends on what the overall interaction is, what the agreements are that are arranged or rearranged between all the individuals that must be involved in creating that interaction, and whether it serves the best for all concerned in a positive way. Understand?
I believe it sounds like you're saying it's the greatest good for the greatest number.
Basically.
Okay.
Now, not to mean that an individual cannot receive specific benefit of the idea as well, but also it invokes clarity of communication and honesty about why what is happening is happening. Now, in other words, let us examine briefly what were your reasons for doing what you did.
Me personally?
You personally.
I'm a games player and I like to play games.
All right. But what were your reasons specifically?
Entertainment.
Did you have within you the recognition or the agreement of a recognition that what you call stealing usually represents a lack of integrity? In other words, were you aware that many of the other individuals that might have encountered what you were doing would see it as a lack of integrity?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. It depends on what the case is.
Yes. As we have said, it always depends on what the circumstances are and what the interaction is. Simply put, it can be recognized this way. It is not so much the idea that what you call the end justifies the means or the means justifies the end. They are inseparable. The means is the end. The end is the means. They are one idea. One idea. One idea. So, the way you act, the way you present yourself, will determine the outflow, the basic interaction that is the result of your particular participation in it. Now, sometimes things can be done that would seem to go against what you call society's rules, that can be used to shake things up a little bit, and doesn't really cause the idea of what you call harm, and isn't really necessarily a representation of lack of integrity. But it will depend upon the level, it will depend upon the approach, it will depend upon the attitudes, the circumstances, the agreements, and basically your primary intention as well.
Well, I'm sure glad I didn't tell you. It excites me to steal those peanuts. I said I'm glad I didn't tell you this.
All right.
But thank you for telling me what you did about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that serve you?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Do remember that whether you think it can happen this way or not, sometimes an individual who simply walks up and says, Do you mind if I take a few of those peanuts without paying for them? We'll very often find that an individual may say, sure, go ahead. Understand?
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Sharing.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
It's wonderful to talk to you again.
And you as well.
I have recently, I guess not developed, but increased my interest in geometry.
Oh, all right.
And specifically, I'm drawn to the shape called a tetrahedron, or a three-sided pyramid.
It is the primary geometric foundation building block of all physical reality. It is the smallest, what you call, regular solid shape, and therefore represents the basic template, equation, in geometric terms, that can be used to define and describe any equation, any perception, any variation, any description of physiological reality at all. It is the key shape, the key format that can explain all ideas of any event or physiological action in your dimension of experience.
Yes. I would like to ask you two things about it.
Speak up so that all may share.
First of all, in looking around on our Earth, I find four-sided pyramids every place.
Yes.
And I don't see as many tetrahedral shapes.
They serve a particular function in a certain way.
Well, what I'm asking you is the function that the tetrahedron serves as opposed to the four-sided pyramid.
It will be more specifically a type of electromagnetic focus that has to do with prime mentality, rather than the idea of, a step removed from that, the focusing of the electromagnetic field that the four-sided pyramids do. It will be the literal gate, three-sided gate, between physicality and non-physicality. The four-sided ones do this as well, but in a different way that aligns more with the different layers of electromagnetic energy that you have defined are representative immediately of different layers and levels of physical awareness. Whereas the three-sided one will actually bring you back to the center of the void itself, out of which all energy and physical manifestation of energy comes from to begin with. It is more of a primal key, whereas the four-sided type uses the energy that is already manifested as physical energy. Understand?
I see. Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. Do you have anything to share with me about why it is that I'm drawn specifically to that shape?
Well, many of you now will simply begin to recognize through the melding of what you call your metaphysics and physics, the idea of exactly how the building blocks of your reality are formed, how they connect together, and it can allow you more conscious recognition of how to create the realities you prefer. It can simply be a focus, a crystallizing tool for you to reflect to your ability to manifest the idea of physical reality from what you call the void itself. You are, to some degree, similar in vibrational wavelength to some of our society. And therefore, the three-sided idea attracts you even as it attracts us.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Sharing.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, goodbye.
Very happy to be here. I'm a school teacher. I've just moved here. Just started teaching at what we call, quote-unquote, inner-city schools.
Quote-unquote, all right.
This is a new experience. I've never taught at a school like this before.
How exciting for you.
Yes, it is. But it poses some really unusual challenges.
Oh, very good.
If you had any information or advice that you could give me about how to motivate or reach kids that don't really understand maybe as well.
To some degree, it is a matter of retraining, as you say. Remember that by this time in your society, they have already been fed many definitions that they are now, quote-unquote, locked into, holding on to, because they do not know there is any other way to be. The primary fundamental idea that you can begin to retrain anyone with, sharing with them this idea, the opposite of what you have all been taught up to this point is, everyone is already in control of their reality. The control does not come externally. It comes internally. Everyone is as powerful as they need to be to create any reality they desire without having to hurt anyone else or themselves in order to create it. You can begin to teach them that what they are experiencing in life is the product of how they define life. Get them to explore different definitions. Approach it from a different point of view, a different angle. A point of view changes the reality. Teach them about the idea that point of view is what they are. That the personality they consider themselves to be is only a set of definitions. They can change those definitions. In changing the definitions, they will change the people that they are. Literally, not figuratively. Remind them you are not talking philosophy. You are talking physics, mechanics. Any change in your beliefs, any change in your thoughts, any change in your emotions changes the person you are. Allow them to learn to act out the different people they desire to be, the way they prefer to be. Get them to use that imagination. Remind them that their imagination is not something nebulous, is not something intangible. It is who they are. It is what they can be. It is real. It is a vibration. If they can feel it, if they can get excited about it, it is who they are, and they will manifest that life. Remind them of these things. Give them back their power. Let them know they're in control. Let them know they are co-creating the reality with you.
I think that would be very helpful for them to know. I felt drawn to this particular school, and I don't exactly know why, but I feel like there's maybe some specific messages I can bring them.
Well, thank you very much.
I think that.
Remember also, and remind them of this, all teachers are learners. All learners are teachers.
So true. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It will have an impact on who it needs to.
Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you. Shedding.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have a question on aging.
Aging, yes.
This weekend at the Whole Life Expo, I come across a friend at one of the booths. They were doing some diagnostics with infrared. So I did it, and I was amazed at the accuracy of their diagnosis.
All right.
But the premise of this was they use an infrared scanner to get spots on the face. I think it corresponds to acupressure points that goes to organs in the body.
Some of it, yes.
Well, this goes into a computer that prints out a set of numbers. But the whole premise of this is that the fact that they say the aging process is based on, they call it the normal body on our planet has a 25,000 sun day lifespan. And it has to do with radiation, how much radiation each organ, the thymus gland being the first one that's most affected by radiation, gets a number 1.
All right. To some degree, this is so, but only at the frequency that you exist at now, or have existed at. The more you elevate your frequency by living in the moment, the more you match the vibration of what you call that stellar radiation, and the less it affects you in a negative way. The idea, that is why living in the moment, doing what excites you, makes you ageless, timeless, because you are living more in the now and you create less time. When you accelerate your energy on that level, you match the frequency of that stellar radiation. You become more of a light being, a light body. And then the idea of the so-called difference between the old you and the stellar radiation isn't so dramatic. You are on the same level. And the idea is that aging, in that sense, is suspended. The things that are affected in that way by the radiation only become affected because you are operating on a much lower frequency than the stellar radiation. And so the difference is created to cause what you call a friction, a wearing down, because of the interaction of a higher energy and a slower energy. The more you match the frequency, the less friction there is, the less wearing down there is. Understand?
I see.
That comes from living in the moment and doing what excites you, elevating and accelerating your energy level, becoming a stellar body yourself. Understand?
I understand that.
Does that serve you?
It does. One of the things that they on the diagnosis, they said that I had never thought of this, that it could affect the body, but their diagnosis showed up. I had moved around the country a lot. They say like living in different parts of the country, changing position in the space in which it does affect the body.
Because you are a different vibration in a different locale. A different locale is a different vibration. different magnetic flux and gravitational flux takes place, and you are constantly redefining the gravitational and energetic matrix that you are by moving around in different locales. That's what moving around is. Redefining the gravitational and electromagnetic flux that you are.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this timing, allow us to remind each and every one of you that on what you call the interaction we will be having with you on your 29th day of your present month, in honor of your Halloween, we will share with you our version of a ghost story. On the 22nd day of your month, we will share with you another story, which will be labeled The Sound. Next week of your time, who knows? We will discover our interaction next week of your time together at the same time. At this timing, we extend to you our deepest appreciation for the co-creation of this interaction, for being willing to discover different facets of the multidimensional crystal that you are. Remember, in that sense, yourself, all that you are. The consensus reality is each and every one of you. Each and every portion contains the whole. Be what you prefer to be. Energetically, boldly, with conviction and unconditional love. We thank you for the gift of your sharing. Our love to you, exciting dream life and life dreams. A fond and loving good day. How did it go?
Very well.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks for coming. We'll be here again, of course, next Thursday and the next Thursday.